Hey everyone, Charlie here. I just took the last 2 weeks off from video making to spend time with my family, so instead of a regular OCC video, I partnered up with Rollie from the hilariously informative YouTube channel Climate Town to showcase one of his videos. So enjoy the video and definitely make sure to subscribe to Climate Town.
If you're like most people, you're waking up every night at 3 a.m. because you're so worried about your friggin'
carbon footprint.
We're talking bolt up, cold sweat, neck whiplash like you're in a trailer for a Harry Potter movie. My carbon footprint! Well, I gotta shrink that thing down or else the whole world is gonna die like Harry Potter's parents or Dumbledore or J.K. Rowling's reputation as a beloved author and not someone with weirdly draconian ideas about gender. What are you doing, J.K.? It doesn't matter. Everyone's personal carbon footprint is the key to solving climate change, right? No, not right. I might go so far as to say wrong. Hello and welcome to Climate Town. My name is Rollie Williams. I'm a citizen, complainer, Dracula apologist, and climate science grad student, and I'm here to tell you that your carbon footprint is bullshit. Okay, we didn't all just start spontaneously saying carbon footprint. Somebody invented the term as a way to define the amount of CO2 a person generates based on their personal actions. And it seems reasonable enough. I mean, it's genuinely a good idea to consider ways you can lessen your personal impact on the planet, only that's not what a carbon footprint is for. Oh, that's what they want you to think it's for, but they're lying to you. And the way I know this is because the they I keep tantalizingly referring to, the people who both created and popularized the term carbon footprint, are none other than BP.
What size is your carbon footprint?
Say again?
Size of what?
What?
No idea. What are you meaning?
What is that?
Not environmentalists, not the Democrats, not even my God King Al Gore. The carbon footprint was strategically crafted by fossil fuel companies, ? Now you may remember BP as the company that, checks notes, dumped 200 million gallons of crude oil into the Gulf of Mexico. So why was a fossil fuel company sinking millions of dollars trying to publicize the term carbon footprint? Because they knew they had a genius marketing campaign on their hands. But unlike other genius marketing ideas like Got Milk or singing Chili's baby back ribs or Budweiser's hilarious dilly dilly thing.
Dilly dilly. Dilly dilly. Dilly dilly. Dilly dilly.
Dilly dilly. Well, unlike Dilly Dilly, BP crafted the carbon footprint as a way to get people to blame themselves for climate change instead of oil companies.
The fact that my living has on the earth in terms of the products I consume.
So if they jammed the idea of the carbon footprint, jam the idea of the carbon footprint down our throats hard enough, and enough people bought in, they could reframe climate change and fossil fuel use as a personal problem. BP could then continue to burn, according to their own website, 12 million times more fossil fuels than the average person, without any significant repercussions. I mean, how can you have a carbon footprint if you don't even have feet? Excuse me, sir, we're trying to shoot a thing here. I don't know where this cat came from. Cat. Hey, I'm doing a thing about how BP invented the carbon footprint. Oh, you already knew about that? This whole thing started as a way for BP to deal with that thorny little PR nightmare. You might know it as climate change. And if you don't believe in climate change, first of all, thank you so much for watching. I thank you. But regardless of whether you do or don't believe in climate change, it's irrelevant because BP officially does believe in climate change, and not just internally. In a 2005 advertisement, they proudly exclaimed, "We became the first major energy company to publicly acknowledge the need to take steps against global warming." And with a serious statement like that, I mean, oh boy, I think we can really expect BP to divest from oil and invest in renewable energy. And what do you mean that didn't happen at all? Like at all? What do you mean I shouldn't be surprised? What do you mean, who am I talking to? What do you mean the whole what do you mean section's gonna get cut? Okay, it's gone. What do you mean, who am I? But you can't just fake it, right? I mean, you gotta have a little thing called showmanship. And that's why BP hired marketing superstars Ogilvy and Mather. And they gave them the paltry sum of $250 million to make them appear environmentally conscious without the obvious downside of actually having to care about the environment. It's a good script. It's a good script. And these Ogilvy and Mather guys are good. Okay, they're like Don Draper from Mad Men good. And not to belabor this whole Mad Men thing, but do you remember that episode of Mad Men where Don Draper is trying to make the whole Kodak slide wheel cool and everyone's like, we can't do it, we can't make it cool. And Don Draper's like, it's not a wheel, it's a carousel. And everyone's like, oh, Don Draper, this is why you're the greatest.
In Greek, nostalgia literally means the pain from an old wound.
Wow, that's good television. I mean, I don't care who you are, you gotta watch Mad Men. Sorry. Anyway, apparently this whole blank is Greek for other blank thing is an old advertising standby because the Ogilvy and Mather boys named the BP rebrand the Helios campaign, which is of course Greek for sun. They actually spent more money telling people about their solar energy projects than they did on their solar energy projects. This guy gets it. You get it, right? I'm sorry, it's too hot outside, I couldn't do it anymore. Even actual environmentalists adopted the concept and pushed the idea of lowering your carbon footprint as the way to solve climate change. To be clear, you can and should reduce the amount of fossil fuels you use, and you can and should feel good when you do that. But the problem is that it is physically impossible for an American citizen to reduce their carbon footprint to even double the global average, because built into your carbon footprint are all sorts of things that are outside of your control. We're talking highways, bridges, ramps, both on and off, the military, and a whole bunch of other services that the government, in part, uses fossil fuels that are supplied, in part, by BP. And it's not a small fraction. The majority of your carbon footprint is made up of fossil fuels burned on your behalf. It's kind of like when your mom sends her friend Nancy a birthday card, but then she signs it also from you. I was not involved in that card, Nancy, and I do not endorse the role model pun, nor would I have chosen a Cars 2 novelty stamp. Now you might be thinking to yourself, hey, come on man, corporations gotta corporate, okay? It's not BP's job to save the world, all right? They're not doing anything illegal. Basically, I'm hating the player and not the game. Well, if I could continue that metaphor a little bit, I would say that this is a scenario where the players have gotten so rich and so powerful that they've either bribed or bullied the referees into making whatever they want to do legal. And they've also set the stadium on fire, and they've blamed it on the hot dog salesman, or the fans. Blamed it on the fans, whatever. BP regularly lobbies against regulations that would force them to make fuel cleaner. They tell people they want a carbon tax, and then they spend millions making sure a carbon tax gets shot down. They've actually conspired with other fossil fuel companies to slow down electric cars and more fuel-efficient modes of transportation. It just leads us to the inescapable conclusion that we as consumers are not free to choose between fossil fuels and a cleaner alternative because fossil fuel companies have rigged the system. It would be a lot like if Michael Jordan was allowed to be the producer on that Michael Jordan documentary, Save the Last Dance. So if there is a conclusion, and there is, and it's this: we can't shrink our personal carbon footprints down enough to stop climate change if we let fossil fuel companies just crank it right back out. Oh, they'll preach the gospel of carbon offsets or low carbon fuels or net zero by 2050, but these are the exact same companies who have spread misinformation and lied and generally dodged all responsibility on global warming for 60 years. And I am not saying the consumer is blameless here, okay? BP may have provided the oil, but we used it. Both BP and the consumers are to blame here. But in order for us to get anything done, BP and other fossil fuel companies have to admit some real culpability here and make some genuine moves to help shrink their own massive carbon footprint. This is the part of the video where I would normally tell you just to vote for people who believe in climate change and leave it at that. But ironically, the real solution is a little more victim blaming. We all have to be super goddamn annoying about climate change for the next 10 years. We have to talk about it all the time. We have to read about it. We have to tweet about it, JK Rowling. We've got to make TikTok dances, Instagram memes, t-shirts, novelty stamps, the whole 9 yards. Force our corporations and our institutions and our governments to stop burning fossil fuels. Now, it is partially our fault that we got here, but it is also majorly the fault of BP and Exxon and Shell and these fossil fuel companies that got us addicted to these fuels in the first place. So let's get to twerking about it. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Climate Town. I'll see you next time. Excuse me, sir, we're trying to shoot a thing here. And roll over. You get that?
Dilly dilly.
This video was made by Rollie over at the YouTube channel Climate Town. If you liked watching Rollie's perfect blend of comedy and climate truth, then I'd highly recommend heading over to his YouTube channel and subscribing. All of his social links are in the description of this video. Otherwise, hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.